Now,
on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:06. It's O'Connor and Company. Thanks so much for being part of our morning routine, which is anything but routine if you're paying attention. Coming up at 7:35, we're going to speak with Dina Griffiths. She's on the Loudoun County School Board. At 8:05, KT McFarland will be our guest. Talk to her about what Putin and Russia has done here with this intercontinental ballistic missile and how that affects the Trump transition and whether Biden should even be affecting foreign policy in these final weeks. Also at 8:35, the Virginia Attorney General Jason Miyares. It's Larry O'Connor with Mercedes Schlapp, and we're joined right now by Congressman Andy Biggs of Arizona, who is, of course, frequent guest to this program. And Congressman Biggs, good to talk with you post-election. And look at that, Arizona came through. Well done.
Yeah, Larry. Mercedes, good morning. Yeah, Arizona came through, and I'll tell you, it shows that Arizona is still a red state. We took back not just President Trump, we lost Kari Lake, but we won every red seat that was up, all the way state offices down to the city and local offices as well.
Well, yesterday, I'm sure much of that has to do with how Arizona is suffering due to the unbelievable border policies of the Biden-Harris administration and the aftermath of how it affects immigration and illegal immigration. Yesterday, you spoke at this hearing about the children who are missing, upwards to 400,000 of them. I want the audience to hear a little bit of what you said.
Ended up in the homes of MS-13 gang members as the sponsor. How'd that happen?
Congressman, I don't have any information before me that you're referencing, but what I can tell you is that no sponsor would be allowed to take a child if we have information that shows that they are engaged in criminal activity.
But if you don't do the vetting right, you don't know if they're engaged in criminal activity. That's how you end up with an MS-13 gang member as the sponsor.
You must have wanted to tear your hair out, Congressman Biggs, as Health and Human Services Secretary Xavier Becerra continued to dodge these. Well, we would never hand a child over to someone who's guilty of criminal behavior, yet at the same time, he acknowledged that they weren't doing the legal FBI background checks on these sponsor parents. So please describe to me from your perspective here what exactly this administration's been doing with these children and what kind of harm these children are facing right now.
Well, so I'll take the second part first. The harm we think they're facing is some of them we think have died, some of them we think are being sex trafficked. They're being forced into kind of indentured servitude. We know that some of them have been used to rent. To get this family status, so they get people will get released earlier. So that's what's going on, and this administration just continues to allow that because they don't do adequate vetting. I mean, hundreds of people going to the same address, these children going to the same address, same sponsors.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. That doesn't work.
Yeah, let me ask you, Congressman. We also saw Congressman Tom Tiffany, question Secretary Becerra about why these unaccompanied minor children were settled at a strip club in Florida and then pimped out by an aunt, quote unquote, who has no relation to them at all. I mean, we're seeing these cases over and over again. We know HHS has a responsibility. They're throwing the blame to Homeland Security that's how they track the kids. Isn't there a need for there to also be a change within these agencies to say, look, I'll take full responsibility to figure out how we can protect these children?
Yeah, well, there has to be a realignment. I think DHS is too big. Homeland Security is way too big.
Yes.
And I think that when you look at this, you've got Office of Refugee and Resettlement that's handling these kids after a certain point, and that's what's happening. You're moving them from agency to agency to agency, and quite frankly, ORR is not the place to be watching over these kids who are ostensibly being put in quasi-foster care. And I got to be honest with you, if they're coming across as an unaccompanied minor, I don't know why in the world we're reuniting them with a parent who put them in the hands of a cartel to bring them across the border.
Thank you. And Congressman Biggs, as we see the Trump administration taking form and we see the cabinet secretaries he's choosing, I can only think of Becerra yesterday in front of you, as well as Mayorkas, Homeland Security, sitting in front of you over the last several years. not seeming to care about these children, not seeming to care or mobilize to try to figure out how they can help them, find them, or prevent this from happening in the future. So I've lost faith that this administration will do anything, although I would love for them to face some sort of repercussions because of what they've done. But how quickly are you confident that the incoming administration can actually get a handle on this?
Well, there's a tremendous ball of yarn that has to be unwound, but Tom Holman has got the right approach, and he's correct on this. As you have to start deporting. As soon as you start removing people, there'll be self-deportations, number one. Number two, it will slow the flow because the incentives will go away. Right now, there's every incentive for these people to come in, and right now they're hustling on up. And you got the caravan coming, but you got other people hustling across the border because they know that if they get here, the Biden administration puts them wherever they want. But when we start deporting them, guess what's going to happen? People will say, I don't want to take the risk. I don't want to spend the money. I want to put my life in the hands of the cartel to get across. So it'll slow down.
CPAC's been doing a lot of work. I know our team has worked with your team with the CPAC Center for Combating Human Trafficking. What advice would you give incoming Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., obviously incoming Secretary Kristi Noem at Homeland Security, of how quickly this problem, how we can move quickly to get a handle on where these children are?
Well, I would tell them that the first thing they need to do is implement the DNA testing on everybody who's coming across. Get the biometrics on these people who are coming in and making sure that they're fully vetted. And that's the first thing, and you have to do that because that's the problem here. We don't know if these kids are going to relatives. And then the second thing you do is on the sponsor vetting. You say if you're here in the country illegally, you don't get the kids. You're not going to get the kids if you check the background. You can do that right away, but this administration refuses to do that, and that's in their latest rule that you can check, but you don't have to check.
Congressman Biggs, we're also seeing a new caravan, they're calling it, of soon-to-be illegal immigrants. Currently, they're lawful citizens of their country of origin, but they're heading toward the border. Is there anything Congress can do preemptively to ensure that they don't get across the border as the new administration takes form?
Yeah, it comes in the form of funding. You tell the federal government, you tell the Biden administration that you're not going to fund whatever their prerogatives are to get them through the rest of this lame duck. We're not going to give you any more money unless you stop it. And you have to. And Congress could actually send some resolutions. Needs to put up resolutions saying we're not going to let these people in. But right now the cartels are actually actively recruiting people to get them to come across faster. They're encouraging this 3,000-plus person caravan to come across.
Can I ask one other question quickly, Congressman Biggs? I'm sure that you're potentially concerned. Republicans still have a pretty tight majority in the House, and now we're seeing multiple members of the House of Representatives being tapped to be a part of the Trump administration. Those numbers are getting dangerously small now. When this new Congress assembles the first week of January, when there's a leadership vote, you've been outspoken about some concerns you've had about leadership in the past. Does Speaker Johnson have the support of the caucus? Is this going to be an ugly majority fight, or do you think that Speaker Johnson has earned the right for another term as Speaker?
Well, I'm not sure that he's necessarily earned the right, but I will say this. We all want to get on with the business at hand. We think there's a mandate given to us and to President Trump, and we want to get that America First agenda going forward. And we've got to do things immediately. And I would encourage Speaker Johnson, if he really wants to go forward here, he needs to get everybody together on the same page, get him meeting the 5 families. But more than that, he needs to get the agenda done. He needs to start laying the groundwork to get the agenda done on day one so that we're passing bills out on January 3rd that President Trump can sign on January 20th. That's what I think he needs to be doing.
We would all prefer that you not make allusions to the Godfather movies. We know how that ended up, Congressman Biggs. But it's certainly, just as a follow-up, it certainly appears as though Speaker Johnson has the support and backing of President Trump. I mean, Trump took him to the fights, the UFC fights at Madison Square Garden. He was flying on Trump Force One. He was down at Mar-a-Lago. If you want to move forward with Trump's agenda, it seems like Speaker Johnson needs to be that person to lead the charge.
Well, I think that's what's carrying Mike Johnson through is that President Trump is basically said we can't afford a fight right now, and I don't disagree with that. But the bottom line is Mike has got to step it up, and he's got to. I'm just telling you, he's got to stop putting Democrat crap up on the board for votes in this lame duck. We got to get forward and do the right thing now and be prepared to go January 3rd.
See, you know how we play here, Congressman. It shouldn't take you so long to give us the soundbite we want. Stop putting Democrat crap up on the board. So just lead with that.
Well, I didn't want to bury the lead, but
Thank you.